All right, guys, welcome back to episode 22 of my East Coast Fitness Podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Lewis. And today I do have another special guest. His name is Leroy, and like I do with every other episode of the podcast, it's only fair if he introduces himself, so I'd really like if you could introduce yourself to the viewers. That would be great.
Man, first off, thanks for having me on. Always a good time to do these things. So, like you said, my name's Leroy. I'm a 26-year-old. How do we shorten this as easy as possible? Bodybuilder, trainer, coach, kind of
influencer, or like social media.
I do a lot of stuff. I manage a supplement store as well. That's kind of like my day job, but I coach easily more hours spending coaching and training for sure. My life is pretty much consumed by bodybuilding. I think that's a safe way to put it. I mean, competing myself, coaching, my own training, nutrition, and then like I run my own podcast as well. And like you mentioned, social media, running my business online. It's very much bodybuilding oriented all day, all the time. But I wouldn't really have it any other way.
Yeah. So just before we kind of get into the meat and bones, I just kind of want to you mentioned that you do all that kind of stuff. So what do you find is like the biggest challenge, or which is the hardest, do you think, is to keep up? Or you're always finding yourself like having to remind, oh, well, I got to train today, or I got to do a client. Like what do you find it's the hardest part of like the balancing for that?
I would say probably managing clients, just because there's a lot going on right now, especially with people now looking at competing. Hopefully in the fall, things are starting to look a little more positive. So starting to try to figure out how to get that lined up as smoothly as possible. But I used to have everybody check in on the weekend, but my weekends just got way too busy to the point where I didn't have a life outside of my computer almost all day on Saturdays. So now I have clients check in as of this past week now, because I got people on Mondays now. I have clients check in every single day. And then
I could imagine like once prep gets going, you know what I mean? Like I know personally from doing prep and having to do check-ins myself, it's like daily check-ins. You know what I mean? So if you get like a bunch of people who are like, versus like if you have like lifestyle clients or something, like it's maybe less check-ins. But when someone's like doing a show and they're like getting down to like, you know what I mean, like the bare bones of it, that's like literally every single day, you know what I mean? So I could just imagine.
Yeah, so it's just being, on top of that stuff, making sure I'm, like I said, scheduling things a little bit better instead of having, X number of people check in on Saturday, split that up over the course of a week. So maybe it's only a few each day that I can, really focus on and get done in an appropriate amount of time. And then I can, because I'm very bad for, getting very focused on things. Which can be a blessing and a curse. On the blessing side of things, it means I can really get a lot of stuff done. It's gotten me to where I am today. But on the curse side of things, with now owning a home and having a fiance and pets to attend to, sometimes they get neglected. So I've multiple occasions had to been like, okay, Leroy, you're doing too much. You need to slow down a little bit. Turn off by 7-8 o'clock at night. No more work. I really am now trying to get in the habit of like not like touching my phone after setting limits for myself, because I can very easily get consumed with I could post something right now, or I've got some messages that I could answer, or someone I could answer a question for, or whatever, right? There's always something that can be done.
Absolutely.
Like I said, can be a blessing and a curse, right? So it's just managing that stuff, I think, is super important, which I've, learned over the years.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Like, I know there's like, personally for me, I'm not nearly as busy as you, but like in terms of doing that, there's like always something you can do, like plan a video, or you can like try to promote your coaching, or like, but there just comes a point where it's just like, you just end up like running yourself in a hole, you know what I mean? You just end up getting like very, very like tired and burnt out from doing it. So in terms of, just kind of wanted to back it up just a little bit, then we discussed that. So in terms of like your training experience, like how did you get into weightlifting? Was it kind of like something that was, I hear a lot of people saying like sports related. A lot of people kind of start like maybe in like a sports background and they end up like doing that, and then they end up going more into weightlifting. But like for you, like what was it that kind of like found, I guess, like got your interest in bodybuilding, I guess, so to speak?
My story is kind of funny, and there's people that, if they understand what I'm saying, will get it. But so I didn't grow up in sports. I was never one to play, football or hockey or anything like that, which for being Canadian is a bit of a blasphemy these days. But I grew up watching wrestling, professional wrestling.
Oh, really? That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was really young, like 6, 7, 8 years old, I saw these people that were very, very muscular, right? So, for those that are listening, if you know wrestling, then you'll know names like John Cena, Batista, Triple H. These are all very, very, very muscular guys. So when I was very young, I was like, whoa, like that's cool. I think that's pretty neat. So then as I got a little bit older and I started to get, more into, well, how do they look like that? Then I got into like the magazines and DVDs and stuff like that, which then you start to learn more about. A couple of them had a history in bodybuilding. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. What's that all about?
Yeah.
And then, I started to learn more about bodybuilding. And, when I was younger, there wasn't a time that my mom could take me to go get groceries and I didn't drag her to the magazine rack and she'd be arm twisted into buying me a Flex magazine or Insider or something, right? So that's kind of where it started. It was kind of imprinted there. I didn't grow up around anybody that competed. My parents weren't in the weight room, like nothing like that. It was just purely from just kind of observing, I guess, at a very young age, close, for lack of a better term, and then it just kind of spiraled from there.
So in terms of like, kind of a weird question for you. So in terms of like wrestling, like which wrestler do you think would have the best bodybuilding? Like to do the best in bodybuilding, if you had to pick one wrestler that kind of like resembled, you know what I mean? Or like if you put the time into like, if you took it away from wrestling and put it more towards bodybuilding, which one could you see, like on the Olympia stage or something like that?
John Cena was the one that he had I think from my understanding, the most success. He did bodybuilding competitively.
But yeah, see, I didn't even know that some of them did, right? See, I never really followed wrestling a lot, so
yeah, and he had an insane physique, and that's the one that I was at that age where he was kind of on top of the company. He was the wrestler, the face that ran the place at the time. So that's who I saw. And then I remember he had a DVD that came out that was kind of like a documentary, and it talked about him getting into training, at the age that I was at, 12, 13, 14, he got into the weight room. And then he got into bodybuilding and stuff like that. And I still remember being in awe about him chest pressing 140 pounds, a pair of dumbbells. I remember being just blown away by that because that's what I weighed at the time. And I just thought it was so cool.
Oh, sorry about that.
Right. That's all right.
Yeah, Ty's ready to go. I'm just going to add him in here.
Yeah, man.
I answered the call by accident. I thought like I could answer it. And then it just kind of got rid of you. So, yeah, he should be coming in here in a second. There he is.
How's it going, guys?
Not too much. We were literally just mid podcast. He was explaining about John Cena having a successful bodybuilder, or potentially having a successful bodybuilding career. So,
I remember that. Nice glasses, man.
Thanks. 7 o'clock. Got to put them on.
I was just getting him to kind of go through kind of what started him in terms of he mentioned that wrestling was a big thing for him in terms of like getting into the bodybuilding.
Right.
So now I kind of want to ask you, Leroy, just and as you go, Ty, like if you want to add anything or if there's anything you have like questions wise or just anything you want to say, just let me know, or like we can kind of go back and forth. Because I do want to kind of, the reason why I wanted to do this was to kind of get your perspective with the coaching, and then just kind of be able to talk like client to coach and just kind of see like, just kind of go over some things with like the relationship and like how important do you think it is and just kind of like where the focus is with your coaching from him having a new coach or something like that. So I kind of want to get into that a little bit. But in terms of your background there, Leroy, so like, I guess to kind of cut to it, like were you working at a supplement store before you decided to do the coaching, or where was it that you decided that like, okay, well maybe I'll try coaching? Like how did you stumble on that?
So when I was in college, I went to college for fitness and health promotion. That was like the fitness diploma where I grew up. Did that, and halfway through the college, I was like, I could probably do this on my own.
Yeah.
So I started going to people's homes and training them. That's kind of my first crack at running my own business.
Yeah.
A few clients that I would see every single week, along with working the part-time job that I had and going to school and stuff like that. So that was like my first real crack at coaching, and I would have been 19, 20 at the time. Out of college, I ended up getting a personal training job in a gym full time. So I was doing that. I did that for 4 years. Did one-on-one, did group stuff, classes, all kinds of stuff. Worked with, from young athletes to, middle-aged, older population. I worked with all kinds of people, right? So
Yeah.
when people say, oh, you're a coach, people just assume what they see on Instagram. But I was 4 years as a full-time personal trainer, 40 to 50 hours a week. So
Yeah.
I have my Instagram personality, Leroy Rollins Fitness, whatever you want to call it, that most people know me by now.
Mhm.
But prior to that even existing was Leroy Rollins, the full-time personal trainer, gaining experience, getting knowledge, working with people. So, I say I've been running my coaching business for a little over a year, but we're 5 or 6 years actually coaching.
It took longer to get than most people think that, like, oh, I'm just going to put that in my bio, like I'm a coach, you know what I mean? But like for you, it was more of just like grinding for the 4 years and actually having like, you'd almost accredit it like the 4 years as part of your like coaching, you know what I mean? Because that's what you were doing. So in terms of like your coaching, what gym were you working at, or where were you coaching at?
It was a private facility from my hometown, so it wasn't like a chain, like a Good Life or a World's Gym or anything like that. It was a private facility. So
Yeah, those are better in my opinion as well for coaches, right? Because you kind of like get to know like more. It's more on like a personal level. I find that like Good Life. Now I have nothing bad to say about Good Life, but I just think personally for me, if I was doing one-on-one training, I would kind of want to do it more in a private facility. That'd be my preference as well. So.
yeah, it was great, right? Like I had someone, like obviously had a boss to report to, but I very much was given the reins to do my own thing and learn, right? And that's probably, the best thing that could have happened to me. I learned, I made mistakes, but I learned from them, and I became better, and I had someone to ask questions and learn from, and coworkers to learn from, but I was very much kind of just given a space to work, right? And I was able to, start learning and building, my brand and building my coaching knowledge, right?
So yeah, so for sure. So before we actually get into, so I know Ty's limited on time as well. So I kind of want to get into that. But before we do kind of get into like the coaching experience for you guys, I just want to ask you one more question. So in terms of making the transition from like personal training, like one-on-one coaching, to like more doing it online based, like what did you find to be like, I guess not the biggest disappointment, but like the hardest thing to adjust to, or maybe the best thing to adjust to? Like what did you find to be the major difference in terms of like, did you like the personal training better if you could do, like if that was something you could continue to do, or like what made you want to do more online?
I guess to answer your first question, was the hardest part not seeing people in person. As cliche as that might sound, online, I think people still have a misconception of what like online coaching, could be. Sitting on a beach with your laptop and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's people that do that.
For sure.
That's not me. That's not my style. Most of the time I'm going to be in this office now in our new home on my computer with my glasses on, typing away and working with people. Right? Now that I have a gym of my own, I will start doing more in-person stuff because I think there's a lot of value in that. Not only from the coaching perspective, I can see, how someone's looking and, how hard they train and all that kind of stuff, but also for a client of, what does my coach expect of me? Like, am I, dogging it in the gym and they're telling me to do 10 reps and I'm doing 10 because it's easy, not 10 because it's hard. Like, those are the things that.
Yeah, I think intensity is like it's definitely like the most, what I'd say is one of the most important. Like if you're not going into the gym and like doing the best that you can with the weights, like especially when you're doing like form and stuff, I feel like that's the biggest like breakdown that you get with like, you give somebody a program, you can give somebody an RPE, you can give somebody a percentage of 1 rep max or however you determine it, but like at the end of the day, it's like it's them that has to do it. And like sometimes as a coach, like the best coaches are the ones that are able to push their clients. Like in the gym, you see like all those bodybuilders like I don't know, like not Chris Cicito, but the guy who trained Phil Heath, I forget his name. Hani Ram, yeah, like being able to like push the trainer or push the athlete to do well. I feel like that would be the biggest disconnect. So like, how do you manage intensity? Is that something that you kind of do in your programs, or is it just kind of put the trust in the client to do so?
Yeah, I mean, it's being open and honest with like, okay, like this is what this means, right? Like if you're doing a set of 10 or a set of 20, like both should be basically two different failure points, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of if it's quote unquote a heavy set or a light set, it's all relative, right? But I think that's where me having the space now, and I can start doing, videos about that subject and have someone demonstrate. Like I think I'm going to start doing an Instagram page for my gym that I can post.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, there's value in that, and it's hard to explain that over a text or even in words, right? Like I can, like what I'm saying right now, people are probably listening going like, I'm still not 100% sure what he means. But if I was to show you a video of Ty doing chest press, and I said, okay, Ty, we need a good 8 to 10 here. And he picks a weight, and he gets 10 reps, but I'm like, man, you could have got 15. That's not 10, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets another weight and he gets a good 8. Okay, now we're on to something here, right? So it's little things like that I think can make online coaching better. It's just how you implement them, right? There's guys that I follow that have like a member site where, people have access to for more information. My biggest thing is having time to do that because I still work a full-time job.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I just want to bring Ty in on this. So in terms of your coaching experience, I guess I want to back it up just a little bit. So like, I obviously think that you probably reached out to Leroy for the coaching. Was that how it worked?
Yeah, that's correct.
So like, could you just give a little bit of detail on like the position that you were in, obviously with like competing and being interested, and like I guess what interested you the most about Leroy for coaching, and like how did you guys originally meet beforehand, or like did you know him beforehand, or how did you guys like connect, I guess?
Well, to be honest, I was actually I was just following some other personal trainers on Instagram, and then Leroy popped up as a suggestion. I'm like, oh, okay. I said I got to follow this guy. This guy looks pretty good. So at the same time, I competed twice in the CPA men's physique, and to be honest, I was quite disappointed in the second one because I thought I had a really good. I was still coached as well by my previous coach at Crunch Fitness, but I'm like, I needed a whole different playing field, needed a whole new blueprint, and I was going to be going to class physique and bodybuilding. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do some more extensive research on Leroy and see what's actually up. And at the same time, I was looking at the WMBF, and then I was looking at Leroy, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's a big affiliate for the WMBF, very well known, well liked, well knowledgeable, and has a sickening work ethic himself as well. So I'm like, okay, I said, let me message this guy and see what's up, to see if we're compatible in some way. And right off the hop, I told him what I was looking for, and he pretty much, we signed up, June 1st? We signed up June 1st together, I believe. So
that long already, shit.
I know it's almost been about 8 weeks, and already, like I said, okay, this is what I want to go for. This is what I want to do. I want to compete in bodybuilding, since the show with the WMBF Ontario Naturals in Belleville doesn't have class physique, so I'd stepped it up a little bit. Told him what I wanted to do, and ever since then, I've had huge, tremendous progress with working with him. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful that I lined up with him and reached out to him, because I'm 110% certain we're going to do some good damage next year, come the fall.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to seeing it as well, because I follow both of you. So it's like kind of like I get the perspective of like seeing his stories and like seeing your stories, and like you share something, and then like I see it on his repost. So it's always like interesting, like seeing you guys share stuff. But in terms of like your other coach there, Ty, I just kind of want to ask this question. What was the, not to knock your other coach, or not to kind of like, I don't know when you say nothing bad about him, but like in terms of like the differences that you found in the coaching that you were getting before, what do you think was the biggest difference that you've seen so far that you've liked with, like, is there a new way he's doing the coaching, or is there something about the training or the nutrition? Because I think the biggest thing is that every coach is different. And I think it's good to have multiple coaches, because like you learn so many different things from everybody, and like one coach might do it one way, you stick with them for however many years, and then eventually you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try something else. And I think that having that is good, but when you find somebody that you really connect with, it's like awesome in that regards as well. So in terms of like your previous coach, was there anything that like you're doing now that you're like, okay, well, that was eye-opening or something that was noticeable?
Yeah, absolutely. And I told Leroy what my goals are, and he said no. He said that's goals are good goals, but we're going to try and push it a little bit harder.
Okay.
And knowing my psychological background with training, I'm always looking to push myself beyond of what's like on the paper, beyond what I know I can do. So I think having that compatibility is definitely is definitely really good to have a coach-client relationship wise. And Leroy is very communicative with me as well. If I have a problem, like, hey, coach, my weight's up 4 pounds this week. I said I had a little bit of bloat or something like that, right? And he's on the money, spot on within, telling me what to do and just monitor whatever. So I think, Leroy, you and I have a really good relationship right now. It's only been like 6-7 weeks, but I learned a lot from you in the last 6 to 7 weeks, and I learned a lot from you, more than I learned from any other trainer. But again, that comes with experience too, with picking the different trainers and then kind of going down the line saying, okay, this guy here definitely really works well with me. So I definitely think, like I said, I made the right choice, and I'm going to be sticking with Leroy for quite a long time for quite a while for future shows as well.
Awesome. So Leroy, in terms of your coaching, in terms of like giving Ty a program during like COVID, what was the biggest struggles that you had for like, I guess I don't think you have to really motivate him because I feel like he's self-motivated himself, but I feel like a lot of coaches might be in that situation, especially with like COVID. But in terms of adjusting his training and kind of like keeping him optimistic and accountable to his goals, was there anything that you specifically did during COVID versus in a normal situation where there was a gym? Like, did you just do something different with the calories to say, okay, well, we're going to cut back some calories or we're going to train a different way? Like, how did you deal with that? Or was it the same as you would normally do in any other situation?
Yeah, I would say, like, for the most part, it was pretty much the same because we started during all of this, right? So we didn't, I didn't have a point of reference of what you would have done otherwise, right? So it comes down to like, okay, what do you have access to for equipment? Which thankfully had a decent setup that we had something to work with, right? I've had people come to me over this quarantine time that, are in similar shoes to Ty, and it's like, oh, I have, a pair of dumbbells and one band. I'm like, well, that's not going to get job done. Yeah. So he had a decent chunk of equipment, and the goal is to compete next fall. So I said, let's almost do like, a pre-prep, if that makes any sense, right? So
get into the mindset as if, I know exactly what you mean, like the warm up before you actually like, exactly, yeah.
So what was your starting weight, Ty?
Oh man, I believe it was around 240.
Yeah, 240. Okay, yeah. So we're down. We're closing in on the 15 to 20 mark. So I'd like to see him probably 210 to 215 by the end of the year, and then we'll hold that. So really, we just hopped into a deficit, which, for him, what was interesting was how high that was for calories. I think
he mentioned he was eating like, well, I mean, you mentioned, because I was talking to you on another podcast that we did, and it was like you were eating 4,500 calories. But like that was also like a couple cheat meals, right? So you said like, it
definitely wasn't. It wasn't super clean. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were to strip that down, you said you might have been eating like 3,500 clean calories. You know what I mean?
At least 32 to 3,500 clean. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we're on track right now, just kind of chipping away at slow and steady fat loss, which, quarantine or not, is very doable. Like you mentioned, the guy's motivated. It's no issue doing the work, which as a coach, I will never be the one to be like, come on, guys, you got this, blah, blah. That's not me. That's not how I operate in my brain. And, if that's what clients expect from me, then that might cause friction over time, right? Because I'm not going to be, it's okay. Like, if you didn't do this, you didn't do that, like, let's pick it up next. No, that's not how I operate. So, right off the bat, I knew that Ty wasn't like that. So it wasn't like I was going to have to be his cheerleader. I simply gave him the plan, and we've just been kind of following that week after week after week. And this week we're hoping to see 227, 228 maybe, and then we'll go from there, right? So
I think that has like a big thing to do with like you mentioned that like you don't want to be that kind of person that has to do that. I think that like comes in like the selection process with like your coaching. Like you have to kind of limit yourself to the people who are like that fit your coaching. And I feel like a lot of people like not necessarily like everybody has a different vision for like their coaching. Like some people will take on everybody, some people won't take on anybody. You know what I mean? Like it all depends on like but like I think that like you kind of have to draw the line and be like, okay, well, I'm only really looking for people who are like self-motivated, who just need a hand or who are looking to like learn from me and like be able to compete. So I think that has a lot to do. Would you agree with that in terms of like being pretty selective with your coaching?
I'm getting to that point now. This is really year one for me as far as like running this whole like online coaching business, right? So from day one to day 365, I just wanted to work with anybody that was giving me a chance, right? And I think I think a lot of people put themselves on too high of a pedestal way too early. I will not ever be that person. I right now I will work with anybody, but with what you just said, I'm getting to that point now where I'm starting to need to be a little bit more picky and choosy because time is precious, and I don't want to waste it, and I don't want people to think I'm going to give them this magic formula that's going to just fix problems, because that's not
exactly
right. Like I will give Ty, everything he could possibly need, but if he sits on his ass, no one's happy at that point, right? So that's where I am now starting to, as we go into year two of running this business, being a little bit more picky and choosy, right? Because
absolutely, and I feel like you have to be, because like you mentioned before at the start, like your weekends are completely bombarded. Like it's starting to be like a problem where it's like you're working all the time, and to have to take that break, like you want to make sure that the people that you're bringing on, I wouldn't say that are worth your time, but you want to make sure that the people that you're giving these programs to and these people that you're paying, like they're paying for your services, that they're taking it seriously and they're not doing nothing. Because like at the end of the day, it's your time, and like some people value like the coaching is like helping people over money. You know what I mean? In terms of like, obviously you need money to live, and it's a very important part of your need to charge people for the services. But at the end of the day, it's like the reward that you get. You know what I mean? When Ty holds that first place medal, and like when he competes, and it's just like that rewarding feeling, knowing that like you did everything that you could, but more importantly, he took all your advice, he took all your. It's just like I could just imagine like once it comes full circle, how rewarding it could be. So I just want to ask you one more question there, Leroy, and then I'll move on to Ty. But for you, what was the biggest thing? So in order to get Ty to where he needs to be, obviously looking to take first place, like what do you think is the biggest thing that you've been working on to kind of get him there in terms of just, I guess maybe it could be a weak point. It could be just maybe he was like overtraining. Was there a certain thing where you're like, okay, after doing like an analysis and figuring out like where we need to be, obviously you're not there yet because there's still lots of time. But what do you see as like I guess the biggest thing that like he'll need to work on, or that you're focusing on as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, until we get like leaner, it'll be hard to tell. Like, I think people throw the term weak points around a little too loosely as well.
Yeah.
I don't think, if you haven't been training for like 10 or 15 years, you probably don't really have any weak points, right? You just need to improve everywhere.
Yeah.
With Ty, when he sent me initial like his competition photos, it was the biggest thing was he needed to get leaner. He looked like, for when he competed, because the standard has changed over the years, right? And when he competed, he was in reasonable condition for men's physique, by bodybuilding standards, a little too soft even at that point. But especially nowadays, and in the natural stream specifically, they do really, really reward conditioning. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to get, a good chunk of weight off this year. And then we can kind of next year, if the show is in September, spend a few months maybe creeping calories back up again, assessing where he's at, and then finishing the prep next year. But yeah, I mean, to look at him and say like, oh, this is a weak point, or this is what we need to work on, from a muscularity standpoint, that would be doing him a disservice in saying that, because we really don't know. But like I mentioned, looking at his initial photos, conditioning is something we're going to focus on, which it just takes time, right? It's time and effort, which both of those we have.
And it's hard to balance like conditioning with like coming in flat, you know what I mean, too. So it's like it's always like an interesting thing, because I know when I did my first show, it's like I would consider myself, I could have definitely got more shredded. Like I didn't really have glutes. Like I think that was one of my weak points. But I mean, I got down to like 168 pounds. You know what I mean? I dropped from like 200 and I don't even know, something silly like 220 pounds or something. I dropped like in 13 weeks. I basically turned into a swimmer. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't really that appealing. And like I would have loved to give myself more time, but it was just one of those things. It was my first show. I jumped into it. I wanted to make sure, and I got down to 168 pounds, and I was like, oh wow, this is what it looks like. I looked like it was horrible. But yeah, definitely. I think every show, that's something that you can always improve on. Is just like trying to get like leaner, and then obviously giving yourself like an optimal amount of time to be able to build muscle as well. And I think that I wasn't there yet either. Like I think that I could have probably had another year or two of just grinding in the gym. You know what I mean? Before I actually stepped on stage, I think you realize that, but you don't realize, like, going back to what you said with weak points. It's like you don't really realize that until you get lean, until you realize, like, is there something that's actually standing out here? Like, is it like I know personally for me, it was my lat. Like I had one lat that was bigger than the other. But like, since I did classic physique, I didn't have to do the lat spread. The only way that it was visible was if the front double bicep or something like that. But so, I mean, I was able to kind of like hide it, but like I said, I was new to posing as well.
Yep.
So in terms of Ty, in terms of switching organizations, I just want to kind of touch on that. You're jumping over to a new organization. Is that something that, do you feel like are you still kind of interested in competing in the CPA eventually, or have you just kind of made your mind up and you're going to go full tilt with the WNBF or whatever it is?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I wouldn't say, like, just to kind of batch, I wouldn't say I'm not disappointed in the CPA, but I needed a change. Mm-hmm. And I know personally for myself that I will never take any damn drug in the world to get myself bigger and better and leaner. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. And I vowed to myself to keep my promise to myself and my coach to be natural for forever, because I know that with my intensity, work ethic, and my discipline, that I will get there. It may just take a little bit more time, but I know I will get there. Mm-hmm. You know, slow and steady wins the race, as they say. But yes, I personally think that the WNBF will be a better stream, will be a way better stream for me, better organization, mainly because I know a lot of other athletes that did compete in the CPA that were 100% natural, that have actually fulfilled, like they're either starting to, or they're competing for their natural pro cards in their division. So I look to that as a motivation factor for me, that, okay, I have the work ethic and the dedication to get there. And I just think that, you know, with the testing that they do, the urinalysis and the polygraph testing and everything, it kind of gave me a little bit more at ease, you know, mm-hmm. like a little bit like a more secure thing, that, okay, that I know that I know that they're actually on top of the testing and everything. So if I do well, which I know I'm positive that I will, then I'm going to be sold on the WNBF for sure. Now, will I compete in the CPA again? I might do a show later on, but right now I'm not focusing on that. My main focus is the WNBF in Belleville, the 2021 Naturals, mm-hmm. and then just go from there. But that is my main focus right now.
Awesome. So in terms of like, just to follow up on that, so in terms of like the CPA, how many times have you competed in the CPA, just so I can kind of get an idea?
Yeah, I competed 2015 and 2017, both men's physique, and both the same show was the Oktoberfest Classic. And
in terms of like the testing, like what was it? Was there only drug test? So that's my question. Was there like, did you compete in a tested show or untested show?
Well, you know what, and I'm not going to bash the CPA, but they say natural, and being that I was new to the organization, new to competing, it took me a while to be like, you know what, they don't do testing, because I know guys that compete in for the overall for men's physique, or even for bodybuilding. Yeah. They said even if, like, quote, natural, even for overalls, they never did any testing. So basically, it's a hit or miss, basically.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I noticed too. Like I've only competed in CPA once, but like I've heard the coach that I was actually working with was, I don't know if you know him. Do you know Patrick McGinnis?
No, I don't.
Patty Lifts there, Leroy. Do you know him? Yeah, yeah. Anyways, he competes in the WNF, but he mentioned that the number one thing that they had was like the testing or whatever. I said that was kind of like an incentive for him, was that like the amount of testing and like whether or not they test. So they might only test like the winners or whatever. I don't know how it works, but like let's say you place in a certain top of the ranks or whatever. Like I think they only test a certain amount of people, but they could test you when you're going to the show as well. And I also know that there's potentially could be like a polygraph. I think that's like the biggest thing too, and I think that's awesome.
It works. Every athlete, because I went to the States and competed with them, that was my first exposure to the WNBF. Every athlete is polygraph tested, so lie detector. Obviously, that's not foolproof by no means. I'm not saying it is, but it is a deterrent because you know that you're going to have to do that test. Mm-hmm. Then overall winners are urinalysis tested immediately after exiting the stage. And it could be random as well. They could pick anybody at random to do the test along with the overall winners. So you're guaranteed to be tested once, every athlete, man or woman. And if you win the overall, you will be tested twice in a different modality. So for myself, that's very attractive to me as a natural athlete. Again, not a knock at the CPA. I've competed since 2015, I've done almost 10 shows. I've won every lightweight class I've ever done. I've won an overall. I've never been tested.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's huge because that's probably the biggest. I mean, since it was my first show, like I don't really have any regrets because I did the show and I was proud of that. But like I think the only thing that I would have had would have been nice to see like with 100% natural athletes, kind of like how I compared. You know what I mean? Because when you're comparing yourself to like apples to oranges, it doesn't really do you justice because it's like, okay, well this guy's, I don't know what he's doing like that I'm not doing. And I think that like I wasn't really under the belief that like they might have been on it, but like it's just the fact that you get in your head where you're like, I can't believe how different I looked versus. So I think that like from like you mentioned, I think that's a really good point that like as an athlete, that's something that you want, and it's gonna like because like you want to be judged to the best that you can be judged. You know what I mean? Like you don't want. So I think that like that's really good from a feedback standpoint. Like being in a show where like because it's the dieting process and all the work leading up to it. It's friggin' hard work, and like when you get there, the last thing that you want to do is like have the chance that somebody shows up to the show that shouldn't necessarily be in that show. So yeah, that's kind of how I want to leave it on that. But in terms of your training there, Ty, like I know you're kind of back to the gym now. So how are you? We kind of talked about this briefly over just social media, but people obviously don't know that. So in terms of like your training back to the gym, if you're going to Good Life, how do you find working out in the hour, or how are you managing your hour? And then I'm going to also get Leroy to kind of jump in on that as well. But do you find it difficult, or how do you do your exercises differently to kind of get them all in within that hour, or like what's your struggles?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, it's I'm so happy to be back. First of all, to actually have access to a full facility. So yeah, I'm at Good Life right now because it goes by via appointment. Of course, Crunch is kind of like hit or miss, but it's mainly miss all the time because they're overcapacitated. But so what I've been doing is that usually for leg day, it's like lunges, squats, and some extensions. Depending if it's like push leg day A or leg day B. I'll do all the compounds there. And then basically what I try to do, I know because the whole social distancing, you can't really jump from squat to extensions right away without wiping it down and all that stuff, right? So you got to be very courteous about that as well. So what I've been doing is that I have a timer on my phone, and I just kind of been doing building up to the heavy sets with the amount of repetitions that's required of me to do the exercise. I try and rest for at least 45 seconds to a minute max. Yeah. If I need to change the weight, that's my rest because it's gonna eat up an ample amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So whatever I don't have time to do at Good Life, I'll come right home and then I'll just finish off with whatever I need to. But usually I get everything. Usually now that I've been back for a week and a half, my training has been very very well rounded and focused and time focused. So I've been able to get pretty much all of it done in 1 hour.
Yeah, it's tough when you like start taking like abs and cardio, but like if you can just understand, like obviously it's a summer, so it's beautiful being able to do cardio outside. But
it's
like you
and
just
it's
go
funny
and
'cause
prioritize like what you need to prioritize. You know what I mean? And you can. I had no issues. Like we moved on to phase 2 or something like that. So I'm in Nova Scotia, is where I'm at, and like we're like the good like they got rid of that rule, and like now they're mandating masks though, which is weird. So like now you have to wear a mask when you go. Yeah, like they just recently like the gyms or whatever. Like I think they're gonna open up the borders. I think is what their idea is, and I think that they're kind of mandating masks. But anyways, you don't got the limit. They just reduced hours. So like anything that's 24 hours is not. It's like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they don't do that cleaning every half an
yeah,
hour. And so anyways, yeah, that's kind of good. Like it's awesome not being limited to the hour, because I think my like training probably lasts like an hour 15, hour 20, and then if I'm doing cardio or something, like it just
yeah.
like takes me like sometimes like 5-10 minutes to warm up. You know what I mean? Just if I'm doing squats or something, by the time I get in there, like I just want to make sure I'm doing a thorough warm up, and I find that has been
Yeah.
the biggest impact is like the pre-workout and the post-workout stuff. Like if I want to do foam rolling or if I want to do some type of like the stretching or if something's bothering me, like it's like, okay, go in the gym, get the hour, and then worry about it later kind of thing. So I feel like that's that's like the biggest thing right now.
Yeah, for me, for me, if I make an appointment, it's usually 4:30. I'll get there by 4:15. They'll check me in, and then I go in. So I'm like, okay, great. I have an extra 15 minutes. Now what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that was good too. I noticed that they let you in 10 minutes early. That's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, so what I do is that, okay, Ty, it's late day. You know what? You're gonna warm up with lunges. Do lunges, and then go to extensions to warm up the knee a little bit more. Right away into squats. Right away into squats first at 135, and then build up. Keep watching the time. So yeah, there's those distracting factors, but it's working in my favor because I have that extra 15 minutes. I can do a lot in 15 minutes.
It's good. It's also good. It's also good from like it's also good from like a cutting standpoint too, because you're increasing like the intensity, so you're reducing your, you know what I mean? You're kind of burning a little bit more, like doing less like rest and stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of good and kind of like gets you focused in the gym. I found that was the biggest thing, other than like the accountability part. Like I really liked booking the workouts because like there'd be times where I'm like, okay, I got to cook a meal, and then like I got to go to the gym for 2, and then I'm like, oh, I'm not going to the gym for 2, I'm going for 5, and it's like next thing you know, it's just, you know what I mean? So I like that 2 o'clock because it kept me to 2 o'clock. I found that like I was way more consistent just getting there. I had like a ritual, like a pre-workout ritual where I'd sit down about half an hour before I work out, like try to think of my like just try to get in the zone, blah blah blah. So like I just found that like having that time was really good. And another thing, it kept me off my phone. Like I wasn't sitting down and being like, okay, what's Instagram saying? Like scrolling through, you know what I mean? So I
don't do that, man. But when I'm doing my work and I'm straight, even without that,
sometimes I'm guilty.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm in and out, man. I'm in and out.
Yeah, no, that's the way that it should be, right? You're there for one reason. You're not there to go on Instagram. So that's a good way to be, for sure.
Yeah, it's going very well though. Training, going back there for a week and a half has been very well. All my lifts are going up, so I can't complain. So
Leroy, I want to talk a little bit about you now. So in terms of your physique goals, what do you got on the table in terms of competing, or do you have a show that's planned that you're planning on doing, or where are you at with that in terms of your personal progress?
I can't make comments on that at this current time.
Okay. That's fair. I guess I should probably ask you. So in terms of like the gym, that must be exciting that you got that. Is that something you're gonna do? Like, are you gonna work out there full time, or are you gonna still kind of keep a membership?
I bought everything that I need. I need a few small, like little things, cable attachments and shit. But as far as equipment goes, there's not a single piece that I think I would miss. Obviously, having a little bit of variety is fun sometimes, but as far as what I can progress and build a pro level physique, I have it all in my garage.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks sick, man. Oh man. I gotta take a trip up there soon, man.
Let me get it all finished up, and you're more than welcome, my man.
Oh yeah.
So in terms of like, you mentioned that you could potentially be bringing like clients in there. Is that something you would like? Do you think you would like? How would you deal with that? Would you do like one-on-one sessions, or would you kind of open it up a little bit and maybe like do a membership, or like is that something you thought about, or what direction you taking with the gym?
So I have, before all the quarantine stuff, I had 3 people that I saw in person regularly, twice a week each. So that's another 6 hours a week that had my time, right? So
yeah.
Once I get them sorted out, their priority first, and figuring out what they want to do as far as, do you want to come back to different times or what. My game plan is, I guess to answer the question, is it public? No. There will be no memberships. No one can just come and go as they please. This is my house. It's not a free-for-all. But what I am intending to do is once I get those 3 clients sorted out, my work schedule is consistent, I'll basically probably every Sunday post a weekly schedule. First come, first serve. It might be 3 sessions. It might be 6 sessions. It all depends on my schedule. Might be 6 a.m., might be 8 p.m. Random days that I have some free time, that if clients want to come in and do some training, if they want to pose, if Ty messages me one day, says, hey man, that Thursday 8 o'clock, I want you to wreck my legs. Okay, book it. That's what it'll be for. It'll be very much, people hop in to get those one-on-one sessions when they want. I know one of my clients said that, once a month, she's in Peterborough. So for those listening, that's about an hour and a half north of where I am. She wants to come at least once a month. She's a competitor, so to see her physique in person obviously has its value. And then again, like we talked about early in the podcast, about me seeing how she trains, her seeing how I want her to train, and providing that extended service on top of the online coaching.
Yeah. So was that something that you considered before COVID, or because I know a lot of people are kind of moving to that direction, like with online, or not online, but like having their own gym? Was that something that you've always wanted, or were you kind of always thinking like maybe I should open like a public gym? Like, was that something that crossed your mind as well, or was it just like were you so focused on just kind of having your own?
I wanted my own space at some point. What that actually meant, I hadn't quite ironed out yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a private place. I didn't know if it was a public gym. I didn't know if I was buying into a gym, if I was renting a space. I had no answers to that. I just knew that at some point in my lifetime, I will have a gym of my own. Fast forward to June of this year, my fiance and I sat down and had a serious conversation about hoping to find a house this year. And I said, okay, if that's the case, then it needs a space for a gym, and I'm going to start looking for equipment. And 7 weeks later, here we are.
Awesome. So is there anything else that you're looking to kind of put in there that you're looking to get that you don't really have right now that you'd like to add?
I need to iron out the dumbbell situation. I was hoping to get a full set of like 5s to 120s. I wanted a pair of each. But space is now the limiting factor on that. So I need to figure out a solution to that problem. As far as actual pieces, the only other thing would be a seated calf raise. Would be the only other thing I'd want that I could tuck in a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, different cable attachments, different grips. But yeah, I got everything.
Awesome. And in terms of you, Ty, like in terms of like your little home gym setup that you have there, obviously I'd imagine that's something that you want as well. Is that something you're going to keep, or like that you plan on kind of upgrading as you go, or are you just going to kind of stick to the gyms? What's your plan with all your equipment?
Oh man, I busted my ass to get all that piece of equipment, man. I'm she's a keeper, man. She's a keeper. I'm keeping that, especially the squat rack.
Yeah, no, that's deadly. Yeah, no, I see all that stuff. Like I was like in a rush trying to get stuff, and I was in like a one bedroom apartment, so it was absolutely brutal for me. COVID.
And you never really know. You know what? From a healthcare perspective, you don't know what the hell's going to happen in the fall and winter time with this thing.
Yeah, big time.
So I'm keeping her. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'll probably build more on it. I pretty much got all my stuff off of Kijiji, so we'll see as time goes.
Yeah, that's like one of my goals too, is like to actually have my own training thing. Like I think that I'm currently in the process right now of looking for a home myself. So like I'm kind of in the same situation you were before. Like if something were to come up, I would like to kind of have some space to be able to devote to a gym. So like every home that we're going to see, I'm like, oh, I wonder where I could put my gym. And like that's the first question that I have. And then my girlfriend's just like, well, we can't be thinking about that. I'm like, oh God. So it's always something that's like back and forth. So in terms of like you buying a home, I guess that probably wasn't a problem. That was just something that like your fiance probably had no issues with, eh?
No, it was, we made a list of what we wanted out of a home because we wanted to find, our forever home where we could stick to and stay. And I said it's either got to have a big basement or some kind of garage. I was buying equipment. For those that follow me will know this, but I was buying equipment without having a house yet. So I had a gym without a home. And I was storing it. Thankfully, her mother was kind enough to let us use her garage and store everything in. And I had that thing packed. But the one weekend, it was probably 4 weeks ago now, and a week before the house we bought, I was looking at all the equipment because I was trying to see what would fit into a basement or garage, right?
A basement would be tricky, right? Because you'd have like those lat pull downs. You'd have like that. I know I've seen that like rig that you got, the lat pull down with the seat. Like that thing would be difficult as hell. Like I could just imagine trying to fit that thing down a basement, right?
So ceiling height was something that was on my mind. Everything can come apart. So as much of a pain as it is, it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing was the leg press. The frame of the leg press is a massive steel structure that does not come apart. And there's no way that was getting into a basement.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we need a garage. What do you mean? I said, this won't go into a basement. Everything else can come apart. The squat rack can come apart. All the cables, again, as much of a chore as it would be to put them back together, they can come apart, except for this leg press frame. And a day later, this house was listed with the garage that I have.
So it worked out absolutely perfect. So it was kind of clutch that you were able to kind of get that. So did you get the equipment at a good price, or was it just something that you were like, I need? And did you feel like you overspent a little bit on it, or what was?
Okay. So one thing that people close to me will know is I hate spending money. I need to see a lot of value in it to spend money on it.
Yeah.
So when it came to this gym, again, this has been something that has been always on my mind, right? I think anybody that is serious into lifting, whether they're a competitor or not, at a young age was like, man, I'd love to have my own gym someday, right? So over the years, I've been tucking money away in the hopes that something like this might happen, right? Not COVID and all that shit, but an opportunity for me to potentially take a jump and make a gym.
Mm-hmm.
So when we made the decision to go house shopping, I said, okay, I'm going to start looking for equipment. I'm going to watch for deals. Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace. I watched, and something popped up. I reached out, did some wheeling and dealing. For as unfortunate it is for others, it was a blessing for me that, gyms were closing. So they were having to sell equipment because the landlords were basically saying, you guys need to get rid of all the equipment or we're going to charge you removal fees. So all these gyms were putting this equipment up
I could just imagine how many like gyms probably went, like all those small private gyms, like they had a hard time, I'd imagine. So
these numbers, I haven't disclosed them publicly yet. So you guys get a little sneak preview. I totaled every piece of equipment that I bought to buy it new. This is a conservative estimate. It's probably a little bit more. But conservatively, it is $41,000 of gym equipment in that garage.
Holy shit.
And I spent just over $11,000.
Wow. So you got like an absolute steal. That's awesome.
Holy man. That's
do you
good.
Do you plan on like, I don't know if you follow Regan Grimes at all, but he's what's it? he's like fixing up. He's fixing up this gym equipment or whatever, right? Like, is that something you plan to do? What's that?
I have 3 pieces from Flexplex.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, he signed one for me.
Oh, true. That's legit. What did you buy off him?
I bought the chest supported T-bar row.
Yeah.
Adductor.
Yeah.
And a plate loaded squat.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I didn't even know. Yeah, that's sweet. I didn't even know that.
That's nice. We got a little piece of bodybuilding history in my garage.
Yeah, so that's whether or not you're gonna have to use that or not. See, I'm weird like that kind of stuff. If I got that, I wouldn't use it. Like I'd just be like,
I got him to sign the back of the pad, like the back pad.
So it's not gonna get like smudged off or something.
Yeah, no one's gonna like rub it and stuff. And I'm gonna put a sealant on it so it doesn't get like rubbed off at all. But it's in Sharpie on the back of the pad, so no one has any reason to touch that area of the machine. And if anybody does this, they're gonna get smacked.
That's gonna be like the favorite.
Yep.
It's gonna be everyone's go-to, right? Like you're gonna have that story when people walk in. It's like, oh, definitely now I need to try it. So it's gonna be like one of those like pieces of machines that everyone's gonna have to try.
Yeah.
So in terms of I just want to kind of touch on a couple more subjects. So in terms of your coaching, how many athletes do you have competing this year, or I guess next year?
The start of this year, the number was a lot higher than it is right now, obviously. Hopefully we see shows in the fall, and I'll see anywhere from 6 to 8 athletes on stage this year, which will be nice. I miss shows so much, so hopefully we can see something as soon as September. Next year, numbers are still kind of trickling in because people are still kind of skeptical on what's going on with shows and stuff. But I had written down that I wanted to see 20 on stage this year. Up until COVID, I had 25 lined up, which, to show that I now only have 6 or 7, that sucked because I was really looking forward to going to shows this year with clients and really kind of, making a name for my little coaching business, right? And getting my face there and helping people get to the stage, because most of the time I coach first timers, which is always exciting. So hopefully next year we'll have a better year, but I'm still optimistic that at least a few athletes are going to hit the stage in the fall.
Awesome. So in terms of promoting a coaching business, I just kind of want to touch on this a little bit. So in terms of like you getting your first couple clients, was that something that you had to promote yourself? Or was it just something based on like where you were and people were kind of interested in your coaching? Or like how would you go about? So if somebody was like me in my situation where I'm currently looking for more clients, how would you go about promoting, or what do you feel is like the best way to kind of promote your brand and try to like establish yourself for someone that might, because like I would love to have some competing clients, whereas I majority have like lifestyle clients, but I would like to kind of get into that. So like what kind of like tips would you give for like getting into that realm?
Be very, very public on social media.
Yeah.
Post a lot.
Yeah.
And get results. Those will guarantee you clients, whether it's immediately or not. But I would say 90% of my clients that come have kind of stalked my page for a little bit.
Yeah.
Either seen what I'm all about, like Ty, or seen the results that clients get and go, seems like he knows what he's talking about. That's basically it, right? And I think one thing that I try to do is put emotion into what I'm talking about. So I'm not just going to post, squats, 4 sets of 10 today. Like, there's no value in that for a prospective client. Like, Ty's not going to look at that and be like, oh, wow, he's strong, but cool.
Yeah.
But if I put context in that post about, why the squat may be a good or a bad movement, or how to make it better, how to make it worse, or I post a client who's squatting and I fix their form, or I post a client before and after photo, like that's what builds your business, builds your brand. And that's just it, right? Like at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself as a brand and as a business. Like you don't see really much personal stuff on my page anymore, just because it's now, geared towards the business, right? Like the last kind of personal post was when my fiance and I bought the house and we had the photo out front with the sold sign, because that's a big deal. I'm going to post that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my followers are friends and family and stuff like that, right? So they want to see that. But, 99% of the time, every 9 out of 10 posts is a client, or it's informative, or it's about me and my career competitively and stuff like that, right? Like it's all intertwined and related, and trying to provide value in each and every post, right? Is it going to work for everybody? No. Ty might look at 3 posts and be like, that's awesome, but the 4th one he might not give 2 shits about. But that 4th one, someone might care about.
Yeah.
And then they'll follow me, and then they'll look, and then it's all intertwined, right? There's a method to everything, right? And I think that's where, you see the people that, really have, built their business, right? And I'm a very small fish in a big pond, but I just hit 50 clients this past week, right? So from 0 to 50 in a year, that's pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a lot of work, right?
That's,
it's a lot of effort on my end, and it's Instagram, it's Facebook. I got a Facebook page. It's the YouTube channel. It's the podcast. It's vlog. Like, it's
so just kind of on that same subject. So in terms of like your social media, do you do like a content schedule where you kind of plan some of your posts, or how do you manage your content to the point where you're able to kind of stay consistent with it? Because I'm in the same boat. Like, I understand that I think we pretty much have like very similar things. I understand you have a podcast, you have a YouTube channel, you're active on Instagram, you have a page. How do you best manage all that to kind of stay relevant, to stay consistent, while you're also trying to, like, obviously the most important part of your job is to help your clients. So like, how do you stay consistent on social media and still kind of, do your job, I guess you'd say?
I would say I only have a few kind of concrete things. I will post every day on Instagram. That's separate from stories. Stories are quick, right? And
I always find those the hardest to take. The stories, I always find those the hardest to take, because I get in a situation where I'm like, oh shit, this would be a story, and then I'm like, I don't even want to do this. Like, it's like I'm at like a situation where I see something like funny happening or something weird, or I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, I don't know, whatever it is, and I'm just like, my brain always is like, after the fact, it's like, oh, that could have been a story, you know what I mean? That's always like the last thing that comes to my mind. Whereas like planning a post, it's like, I could probably think of a pretty decent concept, pretty decent like thing, and like pretty decent message. But like when it comes to like quick spontaneous things, being like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, I always forget.
Yeah, when it comes to stories, like, a lot of my stories are going to be like probably training footage, and like I said, it's going to be me sharing clients that tag me and stuff, right? Like, Ty's going to tag me in, a training video, or he's going to tag me, last meal of the day, and I'll share it, right? Like, that's what a lot of my stories are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I was saying, I'll post once a day for sure. 2 is what I aim for. Like, I try to post at least once around like 10 a.m. and then once around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Some days get away from me and I don't get that second post in, but I'll always post once. Podcasts, I do my damnedest to get one up every Wednesday. It's tricky just because a lot of my guests are all over the world, so scheduling timing is...
Oh, I understand that.
So trying to get a podcast up every Wednesday. YouTube is taking a hit just because it's time consuming to like vlog and edit and stuff like that. I try to, if I can get one YouTube video up a week, I'm doing all right, along with podcast, and then the Natty News page as well. I try to at least... I go on the page on my phone and I'll share everything that I've been tagged in and stuff like that. And I really try to post on that every day. But again, sometimes the days, like today, for example, like at work was just so busy today that I didn't have time to do anything else, right? So I was able to answer clients when they checked in. But as far as like, I got a post up this morning before work, but then the rest of the day was work, right? So I couldn't do really much else. I mean, shit, we had to delay this an hour because I was so busy.
Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of want to ask you, in terms of like Instagram and YouTube, what do you think, if you could only focus on one, being Instagram, and why would you say that? I just want to get your thoughts. Just,
it's the biggest return on my investment. YouTube, I think, it's never generated me a single dollar as far as like ad revenue and stuff like that. Like, I'm not a YouTuber making money off YouTube. As far as direct income, nothing from the platform, but indirectly, I've had clients who have seen my videos, then reach out. I've had clients that, have watched show day videos, and then they are like, oh, okay, that's kind of how it goes. And then for me, selfishly, like, documenting my preps, and I can't wait to sit down with my kid one day and be like, yo, I competed 20 years ago. I know I don't look like it now, but watch this video. Like, that's what YouTube does for me. Facebook, when I was a personal trainer, a lot of my demographic was like kind of middle-aged people, so Facebook was where they were at. So having a Facebook page made the most sense. Then as I've transitioned through online coaching and running my business stuff, Instagram's where it's at. simply put. Like that's where like the fitness industry is so visual that's where Instagram's the photo video platform, right? So it only makes sense to put most of my efforts into that, and I do. There's not a day goes by that I don't have like 1 or 2 DMs, whether it's a coaching inquiry or a general question and stuff, and then that snowballs into.
And I think the algorithm is a little bit better too on Insta. You know what I mean? Just generally getting hits on different things. I always find that like when I post Instagram or content on Instagram, it's a little bit more motivating because you get a little bit more feedback versus like YouTube. If you're not like, if you don't trigger the algorithm or it's just something that doesn't really stand out, it's easy to like, it's like a more like long-term game, right? YouTube, I feel like it's like you have to be in it for like a couple, well, depending on what your channel's about, obviously, but like I found for fitness, it's like it's an overcrowded to begin with.
I have no disillusions that I'm gonna be like the next, I don't know, Christian Guzman on YouTube with 1.5 million subscribers and making thousands of dollars off each video. That's not what YouTube is for me.
Yeah,
like I said, it's a platform I can document this journey and give more meat to it instead of just a photo. I can post video and that kind of stuff, but. Yeah, as far as
do you feel like you'd be able to get some return from the videos if you were to kind of promote your coaching like on YouTube? Is that something that like you would think about in the future? Obviously, you're not hard pressed for clients. You're not in a situation where you're like, I need clients. But like, do you feel like there is like a little bit of a benefit to being like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be giving you guys some value. I'm going to be showing you like my workouts and like a personality thing. Like, do you feel like that would be kind of a good opportunity for getting clients, or do you feel like basically like Instagram is just too good for
me? It's Instagram. I think most of the people that watch my videos are already followers on Instagram anyways. Like I don't think very many casual YouTube viewers are stumbling across one of my videos. Like there might be some. Like most videos only get a couple hundred views, and that's a good video, right? Like I'm not nearly excelling on YouTube at all, and I don't care. I look at the views out of curiosity just to see if any videos are doing like weirdly well.
Yeah,
but it's purely a place I can document this journey, right? Like that's all it is to me. I don't expect anything from it ever.
Awesome. I have one more question for you, but I want to move over to Ty, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. So in terms of Ty, do you plan on getting on YouTube?
Who, me?
Yeah, I think you do well on YouTube.
Sure, man, I tell you, I don't have a lot of experience with video editing and all that stuff. It'd probably take me a hell of a lot more time to figure that out than post a video. But as far as I'm concerned, I like the Instagram and the Facebook stuff. YouTube, I like to watch other people, but it's personally, it's not really in my interest right now. Maybe down the road, you never know. But right now, I just stick to my 2 Facebook and Instagram social media platforms for progress and updates and stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm just playing off his point for documenting your own progress. Like you could show people. That's kind of what I thought YouTube would be good for when I first started doing it, because I put a lot of work into YouTube. I do like 2 videos, 3 videos a week on YouTube. That's pretty much like I would consider that like my primary platform. Instagram I used to be consistent with, but like I just found that like for some reason I just put more priority towards YouTube. I don't know why, but I think I really like your point with like you get more out of Instagram, I think. You know what I mean? Just in general, with the amount of like effort that's required, like you have to sit down, you have to edit the video, you have to do all this, you have to create the thumbnail, you have to blah, blah, blah. Like it's just so much of a process. Whereas like Instagram, it's like quick story, quick training clip, quick video, quick photo, whatever it is. It's always just like right on the spot, and it's so like convenient. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But before we wrap it up, I just want to ask you one more question. So in terms of your coaching, what are you doing to kind of level up, or what kind of things are you kind of planning to do? Do you plan on taking any more like education, or are you subscribed to any type of like, where would you go if you were looking to kind of get educated or continue to stay relevant? Is there any type of outlets that you're following?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously bodybuilding is my passion. It's where I spend most of my time. As weird as it is, though, it's not the majority of my clients yet. But like I'm, a big fan of 3DMJ. There's a lot of podcasts that I follow, trained by JP, AJ Morris, Team MBM, all them guys. I'm always consuming content, right? Like at work, there's.
Did you say JP or JB?
JP. trained by JP.
Okay, because there's also JB, which is, do you know Jake Bailey?
Yep.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast actually.
Yep.
But yeah, he's a good guy.
So that's where I get most of my information, I would say, as far as like certifications and that like formal like education. I think you can learn it all for free online. I really do. Or you can pay, $8 a month on a member site and learn some stuff there, or download a podcast or an ebook for $10. You know what I mean? Like, I think for what I'm involved in, I don't know if any more, thousands of dollars for programming and schooling and stuff is going to get me from 50 clients to 500 clients. And I don't even want that. I like 50 for me is like, that's enough. That's enough babysitting.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, like in terms of like I think it's like all based on like experiences, and like everyone's different. Like you can't teach how to train somebody through through a textbook necessarily. Like you need to be able to know how it applies to every different person, because not everybody is in the situation to train the most optimally. Like not everybody can train like 5-6 days a week, or not everybody can do a push-pull legs, or not everybody can squat, or like whatever it is. Like there's people that are in different situations, and I think that like being able to accommodate people and being able to like give them the best program that they can have, but like also being able to take your knowledge from like you mentioned before with his calories, you were kind of surprised that he was eating so many calories, or he was, you know what I mean? So like being able to learn that and take that away and understand, okay, well, I remember I had a client that was around there. Like, what did I do with them? And then being able to do like trial and error. I think that's like a big thing, right?
You hit it right on the head, right? It's trial and error. And for anybody that's going to tell you otherwise in this coaching field, they're lying, right? Like when I have, like, anytime a client's going to come to me, if they're first time, like, I don't know what works for them. How could I possibly know that? It's like when Ty joined. Like, how could I possibly know he was going to eat 3,800 calories and lose weight? Like, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? But that comes with time, right? And one of my clients, Isabel, she competed last June, did her first show, and then she was supposed to compete this past spring for her second show. So she was my first client that was going to be my second go-around.
That's another thing I want to ask you on. So you can keep going. I just have one more. Yeah, just keep going.
She was going to be my first client that I would prep a second time.
Yeah. Okay?
So we have all this data from her first prep to now pour into the second prep and make it that much better. And at 4 weeks out, she was already like way better conditioned than her first stage photos. She was eating more. She was doing less cardio. These were all things that, I mean, you look at her first prep, we didn't know any of this stuff, right? I mean, even Todd, we're gonna get there next fall, and he's gonna look awesome. But I guarantee you that if he comes back and says, okay, like fall 2022,
he'll look even better. Yeah.
Even better, right?
Because you'll know what the adjustments that you made, and like it's like when you run the race the first time, you don't really know the race, but if you were to do the race the second time, you're gonna know where the turns are. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna realize, oh, I need to slow down for this turn, or like there's gonna be a spot in the track where you're like, okay, well, I hit a roadblock here. What can we do differently to kind of like, is it a diet break we need to do? Is it more protein? Is it less carbs? Like, do we need to kind of like start doing some mealtime? Like it all varies based on different people, and I totally agree. So the question that I kind of had, I don't want it to go much longer, but in terms of the clientele, like, do you like how much? What's the percentage of like clients that you have that are women competitors versus male competitors? And like, why do you? I just personally, for me, I couldn't imagine like coaching a woman competitor. I feel like it would be just. I always envision myself, if I was running a coaching business, it would be just filled with all guys. Like it'd just be a bunch of dudes. So like, what are your thoughts on like, I guess like what interests them to kind of go towards you, I guess?
So I guess to answer the question, so say I got 50 people.
Yeah.
15 of them are male.
Yeah. Oh, 15 of them are male. Really?
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought that. Yeah.
Less than half are male.
Wow.
Most of the people I work with right now are female. A lot of it, as weird as this may sound, I think when one girl sees her friend get in shape, to do the same thing.
And then they're like, who's your yeah, exactly.
One of my clients, Ashley, I doubt she'll watch this, but I'll give her all the credit in the world. She's referred me probably 12 people in the last 4 weeks. Right?
Yeah, that's a month. That's a month of free coaching right there.
That's a person that got results.
Yeah,
That was sharing it online. Her friends are seeing it and reaching out and saying, "Okay, the hell are you doing? I'm working with Leroy. Who's Leroy? Here you go." They reach out. I lock them in. Here we go. That's how it happens. As far as competitors, I would say if I have 50 clients, maybe right now I have like 10 or 12 people actively looking to compete. It's probably 50-50, I would say, men to women competing, but more lifestyle.
Do you have any women that approach you that are just looking to kind of like, let's say, like lose weight or just look better, and then they end up like figuring out that they want to get competing? Like, is there any women that just like make the transition from not competing to like, oh, I think I'll start competing? Did you have any of those kind of clients?
Nothing yet, but there's a few that have talked about it.
Yeah, have mentioned
very, very preliminary chats of like, hey, like if all goes well, maybe next year I want to try that. But
yeah,
that's a whole new ball game, right?
Yeah,
and
for you especially, because I don't know if you've never coached like a bikini competitor or anything like that, have you?
I've coached like 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had more female competitors than male right now.
So in terms of your first client, is your first client, is he still with you, or are they still with you?
Isabel, a girl that
like you should say, like your first like serious, other than like, hey bro, I'll help you out kind of thing. Like, is your first like paying client, is that person still?
No, but there's a couple that are closing in on, a 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you want, right? Like just like client retention, which is obviously you're gonna have some turnover, but I think that turnover is good in some regards because it creates more opportunity for other people, and especially as a coach, like when you're coaching the same, not to say that like coaching the same people is bad, but like you need to be able to like have coach multiple people, and I think that's like what makes a good coach is to have success with a bunch of people, but be able to have like the diversity to be able to say, I've had success with multiple people. It's not just like I coached one person for 5 years. And it's like, do you know what I mean? Because there comes a time where it's like, okay, well, we kind of need to move on. Like, we're going to do the best that we can. But so it's like you have to choose whether or not to expand your coaching to try to bring on some new people, or maybe you're happy doing what you're doing, coaching the same people. So I think that's awesome for sure. So just the last question that I kind of want to end on. I just been ending on this for the last couple times with the podcast. I don't know why, but it's just the question I end on. So where do you see yourself in 10 years? Leroy, and then I'll ask Ty. So when he's answering, you can kind of think.
10 years? Dude, I didn't have a house 10 weeks ago. I can't answer that because
where would you like to be in 10 years?
What do I see in 10 years? I will be 36.
Jeez, man, you're young. I'm 30 right now.
I'll be 36. I'll be pro. I will have a family. I don't see why I wouldn't still be living in this home. Career-wise, I'll still be. I don't know, man. Like as far as like work and stuff goes, like man, 10 years is a long time. Like so much shit can change.
Do you think that you'd be interested in staying in the fitness? Or have you ever like, so that's another question. Sorry, I just keep thinking of these questions, but is there something that like before fitness, was there something that like you were like, oh, I'm going to do this, but like, or was it just all, no. So what would you be doing if you weren't doing fitness, do you think?
Psychology. Actually, I can answer that question with a triumphant psychology would be where I'd land.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting.
I love trying to figure people out. I really do. I get a good kick out of that. I'm very analytical when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll just sit back and watch, and I'll be like, why are you behaving this way, or why are you speaking this way, or why are you saying these things? And that psych would be where I go. I think
So
that's why coaching goes so well, right? 'Cause you're trying to figure.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like having to determine people's bodies, but you're not doing so much with their mind and their like their you know what I mean, their thoughts and whatever. You're doing it more with their like why their body's responding this way. You know what I mean? So, just yeah. So coaching, like, do you see yourself expanding the coaching business, or do you just want to kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think you're going to take on more clients and then have to expand, or like, what are your thoughts on that? Just like as in 10 years.
It's a tough one, man. Like it all depends on what happens with family and stuff, right? Like
You really prioritize. Yeah.
One of the main reasons we built this gym was because I didn't want to leave the house for 3 hours to go train when there's kids running around. I wanted to be here. Again, this is very early, right? This is that in itself is still a year or two down the road. But I think about that stuff a lot because it's very important to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I can, I don't need to be a millionaire, but if I can comfortably, you know, support myself and support my family from my computer, and be around a lot and further myself through business, further myself as an athlete, because I will continue to compete, I'm happy, man. I don't need a lot. I just need enough.
Absolutely. And in terms of Ty, where do you see yourself in 10 years there, Ty?
Oh man, it's 10 years, 10 years. Well, let's see. I'll be 38.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny that they always go towards age. Like I never really like the first thing I think of in like 10 years. It never really goes towards age because it's scary for me. Like I'll be 40 in like 10 years. You know what I mean? It's just like it's crazy to think that like holy shit. Like what like you just, I don't know. It's just crazy to think. But yeah, continue.
Time flies. Yeah, no, well, I definitely, because of my passion for wanting to excel in the natural bodybuilding stream, I definitely do see myself as a WMBF natural pro, whether in class physique or bodybuilding, whichever one. You know, 10 years, definitely have a family of my own. And since I stated to both of you that next fall I'm going to be pursuing my personal training certification as well as nutrition coach certification, I definitely see myself within those 10 years, always expanding my knowledge in that field. Like I'm always big on expanding my knowledge and education of what I'm passionate about. So I definitely see myself having it as a side gig, separate from my nursing. But I would definitely
do you ever think you'd ever like give up nursing to do coaching if it was something that was like, okay, I can't have all this time? If there was a trade-off like within the next 10 years, do you see yourself being like, I've gave my effort with nursing, now I kind of want to take the risk and go more towards that, or do you feel like you're a lifetime nurse?
It depends, man. Kind of like what Leroy said. You know, it kind of depends on what the situation is. Every year is different. You know, fitness. How do I say it? It's not going to always be like consistent. Like you're always going to have clients that are with you for a year, then or some for 6 months and drop off and don't hear from them again, but whatever, right? So it's not really. I wouldn't say it's not totally secure. I mean, it is secure, but.
Well, I can relate to that for sure because like I recently took a risk trying to start up a coaching business, and I've had probably 6 or 7 clients. You know what I mean? And right now I have 2. Yeah. So if I would have had like I never thought I would get 1 client. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, well I'll see what happens. Like I'm really passionate about this. I want to learn, and I'll try to take on some clients and see what happens. I started getting 1. Once you got 1, you got 2, 3, and then like 4, and then I got up to like maybe 5 clients at the most. But like. It's just like I completely agree. It's something that like is definitely something that you have to like going back to what he said, like you have to work hard. Like there's a lot of behind the scenes work that like you don't really see. And like grinding on like social media, having to like up your coaching, having to like stay relevant, having to also like look the part too. Whereas something with like nursing or like a more secure job, it's like you're as long as you're doing a good job at work and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you show up, you get paid kind of thing. And that can be like a benefit for like starting your own business. I think it's like a risk to reward. It's like you work very hard for your money for sure. So
exactly. Well, right now I would just say I would definitely stick to the nursing because I love being in healthcare as well. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely where my career path is. But so I would just say right now, full-time nursing and then having the personal training as a side gig to start, then slowly build up year in from year to year and see what happens.
Awesome.
Either way, I will have both in my I will have both in my life. Whether one determines whether one overrides the other, time will tell.
Yeah, But I think that's absolutely awesome. I think that like going for your certification, I think like learning more. It's something that I always believed in personally myself. Like I've always tried to educate myself no matter what I do. And I think that like taking that is definitely a good step for you. I think like you'll do extremely well with anything that you do because you like look at you with your fitness, right? Like your personal journey and stuff like that. The amount of work that you put in, like I could just imagine what it is for like nursing, what it would be when you go and you study and stuff like that. So I'd imagine that you'll get what you deserve. That's for sure. Like you work hard, you work hard for what you do. So
I appreciate it.
no problem. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the podcast. I want to thank Leroy for coming on. Ty has been on probably about 2 times now, so but yeah, no, I really want to thank you for your time. It was awesome. I always wanted to do something like this to like have like a coach, have like an athlete on. I think it's like something that's like, I wouldn't say missing, but I think it's like a really good thing to be able to kind of get 2 people on. This is my first podcast where I had 2 people on as well, so I think it was a little bit different for me, like trying to incorporate kind of like that structure that I kind of was looking for. But I also, too much structure is bad as well. So yeah, so I'd like to thank you for coming on, and I really do appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. And it was awesome.
Yeah,
I loved it, man.
What's
I enjoyed
that?
it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I'm glad it worked out.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. That's another thing. Scheduling, man. It's always like tricky for sure, especially when like you're dealing with people with different time zones. It can be tricky, right? So I mean, only an hour in the difference. But I mean, I was on a podcast the other day with people from Australia, so I was just like had to plan like a day. Like it was like Friday at 8 p.m. my time, and it was 9 a.m. their time, like on Saturday. So I was just like, okay, how do I do this? I had to do some like quick math and figure out whether or not it was available. Anyways, it's just like scheduling is always the issue, and making time too, because everybody's busy. But as I do with every podcast, don't forget to be inspiring, stay motivated, and continue to push your limits.